Hello. Let's do this thing with Marvel.
We did the thing.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. I am in New York City. So we could do the show live from Times Square like we're the Today Show.
Nice. That's really cool. Careful for any, symbiote dragon attacks or Galactus, because everything happens there. So just be careful.
So I just saw Hades Town, and one of the main characters played Peter Parker. I presume it's Peter Parker. I never saw the show. In Spider-Man Turn Off the Dark.
Oh, wow. That's cool.
And Alex misread the program. And so he's like, oh, Hades played Peter Parker. Well, Hades is like 60 years old. And I was like, what did they do to that show? And I was like, this one guy seems really like Peter Parker. And then Alex just realized he got those Greek characters messed up. But yes, I got to see Peter Parker. It made me think about like how cool would it be if Spider-Man, like they need to get a Stuntronic and do it in New York. Like how cool would that be?
That would be really awesome. Just, not like in a theme park like situation, just in real New York. That'd be really cool.
Dun, 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 dun. Okay, so but we're here to talk about comics.
Let's
where we started. Death of Doctor Strange.
Yeah. So we'll start with what I guess is our big issue this week, right? The continuation of this story here. What did you think?
I liked it. I couldn't tell you what happened though. Like, so you find out like Doctor Strange like took a week off, like has a week like siphoned off like a Horcrux or something, which is my one Harry Potter reference I know. And like, so I'm not quite sure where I'm not a Doctor Strange expert in terms of like when in the comics this week is, but
yeah.
And everyone's like, obviously Doctor Strange, there's sort of dimensional incursions from the purple dimension, and everyone wants Doctor Strange to help, and Doctor Strange, the sort of revived Doctor Strange, the ticking time Doctor Strange, is struggling to figure out how to handle that. So while not knowing half the people that know him, and sort of like, it's kind of like the Parent Trap, when like you see him, you think you know him, but like, Sarah and Susan don't know the parent they're with, so they got to pretend.
Not a comparison I expected to get for this comic, but yeah, it makes sense. I like that they gave us an explanation as to what happened, because I kind of complained about it last week that, there was this whole mystery of who's going to replace Doctor Strange, and it just turned out it was Doctor Strange. And, it was just sort of that Marvel or that comic book cop-out that just no death is permanent. But I like that they gave us this explanation. It makes perfect sense. I'm still not counting on it being a permanent death for Doctor Strange. You would assume he's going to come back in full in the future. But right now it is, just like he has a clock. He just has, a one week clock that he's working with here. So I like that they did that. They also introduced some new villains in this issue, and I'm curious what your thoughts were on them, because I'm not sure where I stand on them.
They're kind of gross. Yeah, the three sisters, right? And
the three mothers. Yeah,
I'm sorry, three mothers, and they keep talking about this like son, but which I presume is like the big bad at the end. But
right.
You know what I did like when they're trying to figure out if this was really Doctor Strange, and Bats, the dog, ghost dog, goes like, oh yeah, it's him.
Yeah. Because they're all doing their different types of tests and like reading his spectral form and everything, and then Bats is just like, yep, smells like Doctor Strange, that's him.
Can I go a little off topic on comic book deaths real quick?
Yeah, absolutely. And
Alex is reading some old old, like 2004, I think, comics in Marvel's Unlimited. And I guess so. He just read Marvel's Avengers Disassembled, and then is reading New Avengers. And I guess he's like, in the letters column, everyone's just really upset about the death of Hawkeye. And I'm like, yeah, because that took.
Yeah. I don't even remember what his return was. Was it, I don't know, Age of Ultron or something like that he came back in an alternate reality and something along those lines. But
yeah, it was like a weird dimensional arrow. I don't know.
Yeah,
it's a Scarlet Witch, so anything she takes away, she can just kind of bring back.
Right, like very true.
It's like she's a human.
One last thought on Death of Doctor Strange. You have to love a comic that ends with Zounds.
Yes, always.
Before we move on to our next comic, I just want to point out this comment here. Thank you, Mr. Bob Newell. I appreciate that. Our next one, which we were just talking about last week a little bit, the Trial of Magneto. This is number 3. Still not entirely sure what's going on, but I'm okay with that because all of the characters are in the same boat. Nobody knows what's happening with this story right now. And I definitely did not expect this to culminate in a giant kaiju battle.
You know, when in doubt, add a kaiju. I feel like a lot of blockbusters do that, or even
Oh, yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, it's I mean, we've talked about the challenges of the X universe, especially since this is sort of happening as the the X-Men tale we read last week. It's a little kind of confusing as to what takes place when. I feel like when Jonathan Hickman's X-Men started, it was very clear. Okay, like this leads into this and this leads into that. But now I'm just kind of confused because like you have the Trial of Magneto, which is a fairly big story, but you also have Inferno happening at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. I think they maybe tried a little too much.
Yeah, and it seems like there's other like you said, Inferno and just other X stories in general are going forward with I guess it's beyond the Trial of Magneto, so what's happened afterwards, and we don't know how we got to that point. Really, I think all that really matters that we have to take away from this series is what's going on with Wanda. I think that's sort of the main through line that we're expected to really care about, and that is really interesting. Especially the end of this issue, I found really exciting. I'm definitely interested to see where this goes from here. I just have no idea where we're at right now. And that is by design. Like I said, none of the characters know either. So I'm enjoying this so far. As confusing as it is, I hope we get a good payoff from it, though. And speaking of payoff, we got the, I guess, quote-unquote finale for the United States of Captain America here. What were your thoughts on how this story wrapped up?
I don't know. We're celebrating 80 years of Captain America this year, which I know is like, every 5 years we celebrate the anniversary of the character that we're talking about. Like, so,
right.
I mean, I remember when we celebrated 70 years of Captain America and 75 years of Captain America, but I know to me, there's all sorts of Captains Americas, right? Like obviously Sam Wilson and John Walker, but to me, when you're going to the anniversary, it's the 80th anniversary of Steve Rogers as Captain America. And not saying that doesn't mean these other characters are any less than Steve Rogers, but it's like it'd be like going to see the 50th anniversary fireworks show for Walt Disney World, but it doesn't reference the park at all.
I will say, so before I get to my actual take on it, I will say I learned one thing from this issue, and that is the plural of Captain America is Captains America. Learned that.
Oh, okay. Yeah, good point.
This, I mean, it was fun. There were some things I liked about it. I think just as a story, the ending kind of fell flat. It didn't feel like it has any impact on the Marvel universe going forward. Like, I don't know that we're going to see more of this, this Captain network that they've set up here with all the other Captains America throughout the country. So I don't know that it really meant anything in the end. It was fun. It had its moments. There was some really cool stuff with Bucky in this issue in particular that I really enjoyed. But aside from that, it didn't feel like it added up to a whole lot.
Well, and it's weird too, is because there's no like ongoing Captain America title right now.
Right.
The Ta-Nehisi Coates run ended, so it just feels like if this is it for the 80th. It felt like a tie-in issue, like a special run that you would do for the anniversary. But I'm kind of missing just having a big sort of Captain America story,
Yeah. And I thought this would lead to, the announcement of a new series or something, but that's what I mean. It didn't feel like it really added up to anything in the end. Moving on, we have what I will let you know right now was my surprising pick of the week.
Really?
Phoenix Song Echo #1. Yeah, I did not expect this to be the case. And it was very close between this and our last comic that we'll talk about in just a minute. But I really enjoyed this. I thought right from the beginning, it's incredibly attention grabbing. Like you jump right into an action sequence. And it is the same, like we've talked about the Phoenix quite a bit, and it's almost always the same story. It's the same Phoenix controlling a character, but it's nice that, it's a different character. This isn't Jean Grey again. We get to see how Echo deals with this power and how it impacts her. And so I really enjoyed seeing this character develop through this whole, we read the whole sequence where she got the Phoenix power, and I'm really interested to see how this plays out for her.
I liked it too. I liked how it kind of made you think about differently, not only about Echo, but the Phoenix itself. Like, why did it choose Echo? What's the point here? And, whereas Jean Grey is obviously, that story's been played out.
Right.
Probably not. It'll come back.
Yeah, for sure.
But I feel like Echo, they found a way to make it an Echo story and a Phoenix story without shortchanging either of them, which was, I think, probably harder than it looks. So I give kudos to them for that.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And they also set up really interesting stuff going forward. There's a mysterious villain pulling some strings, and there's going to be like a time travel element to this, which I love. So this is going to be really, really exciting. I'm looking forward to the rest of this for sure. And our final issue, which I can go ahead and assume is your pick of the week. This is Fantastic Four #37, a Halloween issue, which I also really, really enjoyed. Obviously you did too.
I did. My pick of the week, sort of anticlimactically, but yeah. No, I think you get what's great about here. You get brooding Reed Richards. You get family like to the nines. You get Skrulls and Creed trying to figure out how to get the most candy on Halloween. And I feel like the first family, so the Fantastic Four started as like, the four, right? Yeah, Johnny, Reed, Sue, and Ben. And then, they had their kids, and their kids are kind of growing up. But by introducing the Grimms as a family unit, which really, I love the wedding issue they did a little bit ago. Seeing Ben as a father is just so cool. Yeah. And, there's some weird stuff going on that I don't know that was fully explained, and probably is teeing up things going on, which is fun. It's fun comics. This isn't like a weird Halloween one shot. This takes place. They're still dealing with the Johnny Storm situation, but Dan Slott, I love the Spider-Man run. I'm loving this Fantastic Four run, and I look forward to seeing where it goes.
Yeah, I think Thanos would love this issue because it is perfectly balanced. I think it is that nice Halloween fun story that anyone could jump into and read and enjoy. But also all of this context from the last few months of Fantastic Four comics is going into this. Everything that's going on with Johnny Storm, everything that's going on with Reed. And there's a lot of emotional weight to this issue on top of just, the main storyline is about kids trying to plan out their trick-or-treating so they can get the most candy. Like what this story is, and yet there's still so much more to it. And I think it's really well balanced and just a fun, easy read.
And a hilarious ending.
Yeah, I mean, there were a lot of funny moments all throughout this issue for sure. Before we move off of comics, again, throwing up one more comment up here to answer this question here. We do know Echo will be coming to the MCU, but I don't think this issue or this comic series that we're going to be getting here with Phoenix has anything to do with that, because I don't think you're going to see Phoenix in the MCU anytime.
Really? Let's try again. The third time's a charm.
Don't get me wrong. I do think they'll try Phoenix again. I just don't think it will be with Echo. All right.
Probably not, at least not initially. I think they're going to want to introduce some excellent friends.
For some uncanny ones for sure.
Yeah. Astonishing even.
So I don't know about you, but I was caught off guard by this today that we got assembled on the making of Black Widow hitting Disney Plus.
Someone doesn't read our site.
Someone has been traveling.
This is clearly a hotel room.
But we're going to bring in Bekah, who is clearly much more prepared for Black Widow talk than I am.
Also, are you the only person who's actually in their own home?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
We need to do like the thing like CNN does where we say where we're reporting from.
Rebecca Burbank reporting from. Well, yeah. Do you want the actual location, like building, hotel, room number, all that fun stuff, or just
I think that might be a little creepy, but
the general area?
For a good time.
Yes.
I think that is a conversation for a different show. Assemble, the making of Black Widow. We were wondering when we might get this, and now we finally did. And what did you guys think?
I was a little bit distracted while watching it because, Mac, like you, I didn't know it was coming either. So sorry, Ben. I guess we don't all read the site. we read the things that we know we need to read. Yeah, I was a little distracted watching it and didn't give it my full attention, but I'm glad it's there, and it seems like there's a lot of enlightening information, especially about costumes and stunt work. At least that was what I was picking up.
I will say it kind of feels like if this came out when Black Widow came out on Premiere Access, totally. But with all the drama surrounding this film, it almost feels like that's the documentary I want. Like I moved on from the actual creation of this film, particularly because I will say I like Black Widow, but I don't know. It just feels like it felt so. Because it's like a weird sort of in-between quote. It just didn't have the same weight as some of the other things we've seen. It's a great film, but it's just like it just didn't stay with you. Because then right after Black Widow, you're watching Loki and you'll watch it. You have Shang-Chi. Like it all came so fast. Like Black Widow seems like years ago.
Yeah,
and it just feels like, oh yeah, okay. It's kind of like now I'm gonna watch the making of a Wall-E. It's like, okay, well, I mean that's great, but it's like not as exciting as if it came out like a week ago.
Well,
these assembles usually come out, I mean, we haven't had a movie come out, but the Plus one's usually like the week after it ends its run. So,
right.
You're ready to go. Whereas it's just a little bit different cadence.
Did those legal issues have any reason with why it might have been held? Or
exactly what I was going to ask too.
I think it was held because they wanted it to become on Disney Plus. Like it just became available last week to everyone on Disney Plus.
That's true.
So,
okay, yeah. Unlike the others where you don't want to have the making of and potentially ruin something for people who can't see the movie yet. Okay. Oh man, there's an actual reasonable, logical answer to this.
I mean, that's my guess. I don't know, but yeah.
So I really enjoyed it, and I think watching this gave me more of an appreciation for the movie, because I'm with you, Ben. Like, watching it the first time, I was like, yeah, this is good. And, you know, there were some really enjoyable new characters and stuff like that. But because it was that sort of prequel, we knew where it was leading, and it just didn't have that same weight that a normal Marvel movie would. So I think watching, you know, everything that went into the making of it, and seeing how much the cast like really cared about their characters, and seeing, I always love to see that, especially in this one. Florence Pugh really shined. Like, she was all about her character and doing her stunts and stuff. But then I also found it really funny that David Harbour was just like, I don't want to do any of my stunts. There's somebody out there that's much better at it than me. I'll just sit and eat a croissant and watch them do it. So, but I love seeing the cast talk about that kind of stuff.
Yeah, indeed.
And it makes me want to watch Black Widow again.
Yeah, for sure. And of course, it was featured on my flight just a couple days ago, and I didn't watch it. I should have done that. But it was really cool seeing everything that goes into the action and the visual effects and everything too. Like, we've seen in, for some reason, the Falcon and the Winter Soldier Assembled was the one that stands out to me the most, as like giving all of the, you know, the look behind the visual effects. But we get to see a lot of it here too.
Yes.
And actually, you get to see a lot more practical action in this one, which was a lot of fun to see.
Yeah, that was really cool. I was surprised at how much, well, more how the practical sets are constructed, and then what's layered on in the background for, you know, for the visual effects.
Right.
But still, like, they're, I mean, yes, I know they're sitting in a car, but especially like the helicopter, where they had Yelena in the helicopter, and you're like, okay, obviously blue screen, but then to see all the different layers applied to it, it was like, oh wow.
Yeah, that's always fun to see. Also, you know, just on the practical effects, they talk about the prison fight scene, and all the snow around it was salt, and I can't imagine what it was like to shoot that, and like, you know, in an action sequence too. So it's just kicking salt up everywhere all the time. That must have been crazy to shoot.
Didn't they say it took like 4 days to get all the salt around the set, and then it rained, so then they had like 4 hours to just reset it? Like, oh my gosh.
The amount of work that goes into these movies is just insane. They sneak an outtake into the middle of this one too, which is the only one that I remember seeing that in. Aside from, I mean, we saw some, you know, behind the scenes shenanigans between Anthony Mackie and Sebastian Stan, but in this one we get an actual outtake, which was really funny to see. I don't know if I haven't purchased the Blu-ray or anything like that personally. I don't know if you guys have seen deleted scenes and outtakes and stuff like that already, but this is my first time seeing it. There's
some on Disney Plus.
Okay, that makes sense. I haven't checked that out since they released it to everybody now. But speaking of deleted scenes, though, have you seen? Because the one question we had about this movie was how she gets away at the end when Ross and everybody's surrounding her, and we see some of in this in the Assembled, we see Ross walking up to talk to her in that scene. But they're not acknowledging that this is not something that's in the movie. So I was just curious if that was something I missed, if you guys saw that anywhere else.
You know, it's like, I feel like it's a story that will be told, but not, you know, it's going to be like some weird one shot, or, you know, some short on Disney Plus at some point. But yeah,
maybe a flashback in another movie or something like that.
Or, you know, and I don't know where Ross ends up, right? Like, I don't think we're done with him.
No, I don't know.
So.
And so, you know, because was he at Tony's funeral?
Yes, he was.
Yeah. So, you know, he's still around, and especially with Contessa, Val around. I feel like they're going to intersect. Their paths will cross, is my guess.
I'm still waiting on Red Hulk. Just waiting for that to become an MCU thing.
A little mustache.
Only other note I had on this was they specifically point out a couple of the stunt women that worked for Scarlett, and Heidi Moneymaker was not one of them. They went out of their way to have an E60 documentary on her and how she did all this stunt work for Black Widow, and she's not called out by name in this documentary. I thought that was really interesting.
I was wondering about that. I'm like, wait, we know it was And
Yeah.
I was like, I know it's her because she's been on To Tell the Truth, and she
Yeah.
like I know you covered the E60, so yeah, I was curious as to why she's not mentioned.
Yeah, I'm not sure. And I remember, during the documentary, they talk about like she had some injuries and stuff that kept her off set sometimes, and maybe she just like wasn't there for that specific day when they were filming this. But yeah, I thought they would at least give her a mention or something.
Yeah.
Speaking of a mention, you've seen a movie that you can briefly mention. No spoilers.
Okay, gotcha. So I shouldn't just straight up tell you how the movie ends?
No, you should not. Don't be that guy.
Yeah.
The giant disco. I heard there was a giant disco. No.
Hotel California? That's so weird.
This movie is a game changer. We wondered how we were going to go from the end of the Infinity Saga into the next step for the MCU. This tells you where they're going. And it's so different from every other Marvel movie. By the way, I should mention, we're talking about Eternals, by the way. So yeah, that'll be November 5th. Just get ready for something.
So I have a question.
Okay.
And without spoiling anything,
Mm-hmm.
This is Chloe Zhao from Nomadland directed it, and I believe had some, writing responsibilities. An artist by any stretch. And as far as we know, we had some sort of talk of Celestials in the past, but to me, the impression from the outside was this was sort of the Eternals was like about as far from like progressive, like its own, like kind of how Guardians 1 was, where it was its own thing and not really tied to the MCU, until it comes out, and then they find ways it becomes a huge hit, and then we're in Endgame. Is this movie is this separate from the MCU, or is this going to be? Is this? Its own thing to establish it, but is it? Do you feel that this is going to impact the through lines that we're seeing in other places?
So I think in the moment, like within this movie, it intersects with the rest of the MCU slightly more than Guardians does, just because that was completely off Earth for 98% of the movie at least. Going forward, I think this is. It's hard to say where they're going to go with some of the other villains that we know are coming. But to me, it seems as though this is possibly the through line for the MCU, at least for the next phase or two.
And is there any Kirby Crackle?
There's a lot of visual effects. I would have to pay closer attention to that sort of thing to specifically notice that. I can picture it in my mind right now, but I'm not sure. The only other thing I will say too, without spoiling anything, there's some really surprising moments that are going to have fans talking. I think the most since Avengers Endgame. That's what I'll say.
Is there anything after the credits?
You should stay through the credits. I will say that. Yeah.
So speaking of movies, I guess we're gonna have to wait a little bit longer for a lot of them, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. That was some unfortunate news. That was one of those things where I got off the plane and I had 9 emails, and this was one of them, that every Marvel movie got delayed, basically. The lone exception, I believe, is Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. I think that held its date, correct?
Yeah, they moved Quantumania from ahead of it to after it.
Yeah, that's interesting. I guess it's just not going to directly impact each other. But yeah, so everything else basically has been shifted back to the next movie's date, which means we have to wait after we get Spider-Man. We have to wait until May, I believe, is the next one.
Mm-hmm.
and I mean, which seems crazy to complain about, but that feels like forever at this point.
I know. I think we have done that in the past with like a November release and then
Oh,
nothing
yeah.
until May. But yes, after this year, everything feels like, wait, what? We have to wait how long?
But unlike the past, we will have other things to tide us over.
Yes.
Right.
Presumably, Ms. Marvel, definitely. I know Secret Invasion is filming and She-Hulk, so I don't know when things will fall, but I imagine in the spring we will get plenty of Marvel fun on Disney Plus.
Yeah, if they follow the formula that they laid out this year, you would think we would probably see a series after Ms. Marvel hit sometime in March. Mm-hmm. So that depends, obviously, on how long these series are. We don't have a specific number of episodes for each one, but we'll see how that plays out. Going back to What If a little bit here, we got some, at least to me, was pretty surprising news that Zombie Captain America has been added to Oogie Boogie Bash over Disney California Adventure.
I know. I just thought how unfortunate for people who bought tickets, you know, like, oh, cool, I'm going to be the first to see this. And then other people who are like, oh, man, I don't get to go till later in the year. And they're the ones who get Zombie Captain America. But still, very cool that they're doing this and that they're, you know, bringing some other villains, if you will, into the park.
Yeah, and the little promo they did on TikTok for basically the announcement of this was it ended with saying more villains are coming or something along those lines. So I'm not sure if they're going to add more to it at this point. It seems weird to be adding to the event this late, but I mean, here we are.
Yeah, that's true.
Brains.
And staying within the realm of Marvel in theme parks, James Gunn, in a little conversation on Twitter, revealed that they have begun filming for Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind. They have not yet started filming for Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 or the holiday special, which will shoot alongside each other. That holiday special is one of those things that I keep forgetting about, and then I get reminded of it. I'm like, oh, that's so awesome. I'm excited. But yeah, so cool to know that. I mean, all we know still for Cosmic Rewind is that it's opening next year, and you know, the fact that they have begun filming is probably a good sign.
Yeah, they need to do that before it can open.
Yes.
Yeah, I would. Otherwise, it's going to be a pretty dull roller coaster, I would think.
It might still be fun. Like even just the spin element of it, you know, could still be pretty
just
cool.
Looking around,
you just imagine screens. What's happening. Yes, you're like, oh, I could see where Star-Lord shows up here, and we've got Rocket over there.
Speaking of those in between projects to hold us over till the next movie, we learned that Hawkeye, which was coming on November 24th, is going to debut with 2 episodes at once. I'm curious what your guys' thoughts are on this, because with only 6 episodes, I don't know how I feel about getting 2 at once to start us off here.
I think it's to kind of not have it conflict with Boba Fett.
Sure. Yeah, I totally get that. That makes sense in terms of the scheduling. I just, as a fan, do you want to see 2 episodes drop on the first day?
Well, it worked for WandaVision, but also I think that what kind of had to, because there were 9 episodes, and
it'll be interesting to see. To me, like, I mean, very rarely. I mean, you know how we get to see things, so it's like normally I've seen the first 3 or so.
Right. That's true.
You know, I don't really have is it wait? You know, but I guess it kind of depends on where, you know, if it builds excitement for it. Like if episode 1's kind of a table setter, and then, you know, the real stuff happens in episode 2, and people might not give it till episode 2 if they're being you know, impatient, then I'm all for it. Like I feel like WandaVision, right, you know, the first, you know, until you get to episode 3, like all the way through that, do you really get the show? And so, you know, I don't know. I would say I know very little about Hawkeye except what's out there. So I guess it kind of depends on if I feel it will build up. But, you know, if we're getting into more normal production schedule, now that the strike's averted, you know, as long as we get something, like I just don't like the dry spells. But if I'm going to go straight into this, into Boba Fett, which I know isn't Marvel, but at least it's a big Disney Plus property, and that goes straight into Ms. Marvel, which goes straight into, then like I'm fine, because I'd rather almost have one show a week than have like two big shows, because that creates spoiler issues, because there's only so much time before I need to start working. So I'm okay with it. I mean, there's a reason they did it, right? So I'm going to trust that they had a good reason for it.
Yeah, I'm hoping that's the case, that if this was planned out with that storytelling in mind, that you do want to see those first two episodes all at once. But we'll see. Outside of the MCU, we got a new trailer for Hulu's Hit Monkey series, the animated series that's coming to Hulu November 17th. This trailer got me excited for it. After the teaser, I wasn't really all that. I was like, okay, I mean, I'm gonna watch it. It's got the Marvel scroll before it starts, so of course I'm going to watch it. But this trailer, I'm interested now. I'm in.
I'm right there with you. I didn't actually watch the teaser or the announcement, but this was pretty exciting. It looks wild, and Jason Sudeikis, like, oh my gosh, he's what, like a ghost? Yeah, I think that's gonna be more trouble than anything. And looks like.
We got Ted Lasso with a ghost connection to a monkey. Of course, I'm sign me up.
I guess part of me just feels like these shows, this and MODOK, were done sort of before Marvel Studios took control of television. And you kind of get the sense that a lot of stuff like Hellstrom, like it just didn't get the attention it wanted. Like it was sort of like the stepchildren that they got in the divorce, and so I want to see it. Like I love MODOK, but at the same time you're like, I don't know if we're gonna get a season 2, because like they just seem to have an energy behind it. So we'll see.
Yeah, I totally agree. With the multiverse, I'm just so interested to see how weird they're willing to get. Like, I want a Portal scene where an animated Hit Monkey walks out and fights, Kang.
I see. Yeah. So I've been thinking a lot about the multiverse because of that crappy Venom movie, and like, I want there to be a Marvel cinematic universe. Like, part of comics gets into this problem where there's like, they use it as like a cheap storytelling trick, like, oh, we'll just have a universe where this happens. And then like the multiverse can get a little, make nothing feel important pretty quickly, because, so I don't want I don't want all these things to be part of like the MCU necessarily, but I wouldn't mind if it all kind of comes together for like a battle or, a reason, and then goes away. Like I don't want suddenly like there be 8 billion superheroes in the MCU, because that's what you have in comics. And comics release 30 titles a week. So, or whatever. And we get like one movie a week, every couple months. So I don't want the MCU to get too big. And that's, I think, sort of the problem with mutants in some of these movies. There's just too many in the story. And so, you want it to be, you want superheroes to be super. I don't know if it's a DC comic, but Kingdom Come, where everyone had superpowers, and you're like, then nobody is, and I don't want to get too out there, but for like a Portal scene, totally.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm hoping is going to happen, is we get that big battle. Give us a Secret Wars where something happens on Battle World, and then they go back to their own universes, and maybe there's some residuals here and there. Maybe this is how we get a Miles Morales or something like that. But aside from that, send everybody back to their
as long as you sort of reset to there being a timeline you care about.
So visually,
frankly, like with I'm sorry to interrupt, but with Venom. You want the Marvel movies to be good, and if you start bringing in some of these crappy movies from other people, I worry.
Yeah, Becca, did you have something before we move
I was
on?
just going to say, so visually, what does that look like? Are we talking live action Hit Monkey, or is it, like a la Mary Poppins when they're in the painting and you've got animated combined with, because that's the wild thing for me. Like,
exactly. That's what I want to know, is just how weird they're going to be willing to get, and how weird are fans going to allow them to get, and I just want to see how much they're willing to push the envelope. This kind of is, a little bit of a tangent here, but kind of also goes back to Eternals. I just want to say I am so excited for the future cast of the MCU. I think there are so many, and that goes back to Assembled as well, because Florence Pugh, I think, is going to be a big part of it. And then this cast of Eternals and Simu Liu and everybody else we've met. Like, there are so many future stars in these next 25 movies to come. Let's jump into some comic book related news before we wrap up here. And I'll just kind of breeze through some of these. The next story arc for Thor is called The God of Hammers, which I couldn't love more. And is going to explore the mysterious, origins of Mjolnir. So I think that's really interesting. Should be a fun little series. And then we got a new Hawkeye Kate Bishop series, a big return for Kate Bishop, who's investigating a mysterious resort. I don't know where that's going to go. It seems like it should be a fun series. What was that?
White Orchid. I like how they blurred the license plate, like they took a picture and they didn't want.
Yeah, I didn't even notice that until you just said it. Yeah, that's interesting. I wonder if it's supposed to be like a speed effect, or if they actually did.
It looks like we didn't get clearance to use that license plate.
Is this a MCU type tie-in, or they're just using the same Hawkeye logo?
I'm curious about that too. I mean, it seems like it could be, sort of serving as an introduction. They do say that this is going to be, fans of Kate Bishop will enjoy this series, but it's also going to be a good spot for newcomers to jump in to learn about the character. So I think that is sort of their intention, is to introduce this character. That being said, this is November. I don't know if we have a specific date for it yet, but it is next month. So should work out
around the same time.
Yeah, exactly. We also got new information about some of the one of the big crossover series, Devil's Reign, which I am getting more and more excited about. Benji, we talk all the time about how we love those like grounded comics, and this is, it's going to have some crazy stuff going on too, but those grounded comics are always so enjoyable. We learn some of the tie-in issues. We've got a Daredevil, Woman of Fear, or Woman Without Fear, tie-in issue for Devil's Reign. We got Devil's Reign X-Men.
Well, I'm curious to see how that plays out.
Yeah, well, I was interested in that too, because now the X-Men are in New York, so this should be part of these crossover events taking place in New York now. So that's exciting. And when I say New York, I mean New York City. Like, they're not in.
They're in Albany.
Let's go Buffalo.
Devil's Reign, Villains for Hire. This one is really interesting to me too. Devil's Reign Superior 4. Doc Ock is going to have access to the multiverse to assemble an army of himself. So just a whole bunch of Doc Ocks. I feel like I can already see how this ends. They are not going to get along because it's Doc Ock, but it's a really interesting concept. Should be fun.
It also seems like a tangled mess with all of those like
quite literally, yeah.
They'd get stuck together and just be all.
Did you know Doc Ock married the head of Disney Animation?
Yes.
I might be wrong. No, Doc Ock was betrayed Indiana Jones when he went to go get the golden idol. That's
right. Anyway, Luke Cage, City of Fire. We've got a Spider-Woman issue that ties into Devil's Reign as well. So lots going on with that crossover event, and I'm really excited for that one. This looks like a lot of fun. We also got a new She-Hulk series, kind of following up with the World War She-Hulk. And this is all about her getting back into the courtroom and, practicing law again. So this is another one that I feel like should lead into the MCU series that we're going to get.
that cover looks like she's not getting back into the courtroom, but like she's getting back into the fitness game or something, and she's gonna start her own line of aerobics videos or something.
Yeah,
it's like Jane Fonda as She-Hulk.
Yeah, I was gonna say she's getting back into the fitness game in the 80s.
Yes, I mean,
total throwback, right? Like she's slimmed down She-Hulk with brains. Like this is the classic She-Hulk.
Yeah, so I'm excited for that. I'm looking forward to that. Getting back to that side of this character, which
I think implies that. I mean, typically when there's a movie coming up or a TV show, they try and get the character kind of in line with that. Again. And so I wonder, like, is this the She-Hulk we'll see on the TVs?
Yeah, that's where I think they're going with this. And then finally, Silver Surfer Rebirth coming in January. This is a really interesting story. Somebody has stolen the Reality Stone and has brought Mar-Vell back to life, and now Silver Surfer has to work with Thanos to recapture the stone. Just seems like a completely out there crazy story, so that should be a lot of fun.
It takes place back in the day.
Yes, yeah, this is along those lines of those other like the X-Men Legends and the symbiote Spider-Man as well. So yeah, jumping back into some classic. There's all your Kirby crackle on that cover, by the way, all over the place there. So yeah, I'm excited for that, and really excited for a lot of these comics we have coming up. What about you guys? What are you excited for in the Marvel realm right now? What do you?
Eternals, because I didn't get to go to the premiere like Mack did.
I know. I want one of those wraps for my car. They had all of the Eternals wraps on the different cars, and I'm like, I want one of those.
You are going to notice my word count go drastically down over the next few weeks as I just try to not let anything slip about this movie because it's exciting. I can't wait for everybody. I can't wait to be able to talk about it.
Yeah, I'm excited for that, and Hawkeye looks good too. But also, I think more than anything, Spider-Man. I've been impressed with this Spider-Man series so far. So. As far as the MCU.
Based on the plural of Captains America, I think it's Spiders-Man is the plural.
I believe it's Spider-Man. I believe that's that one.
Spider-Man is a character. He is a man made up of spiders, and not making that up. It is terrifying.
Is Doorman made up of doors?
That would make him a more interesting character.
Does Doorman work at in Monstropolis with the monsters? Like, yeah.
There's your crossover right there.
Right.
Someone needs to do the origin of Monsters Inc. Like, who's like, like you're in the monster world, and you're like, somehow we're gonna take these doors that are portals to other dimensions, and
there's your multiverse.
The more you talk about it, the more Monsters Inc. seems like a Marvel property. All right, well, that's it for issue number 67, which I don't even know that we ever put that up, but
there we go.
There we go. Did you guys have anything else before we close out for today?
I think we can't do a normal vamp because I'm just gonna want to ask about Eternals, and you're not gonna be able to tell me anything. So.
Yeah, I'm just gonna have to shut down at some point.
Yeah, and it's like this is particularly early. Usually, we don't get it, 15 days before.
Yeah, I was surprised.
I wonder if some of this is because you've got November Eternals, and then followed by Hawkeye, followed by Spider-Man. Like, is it so close that they kind of need to get everybody talking about it, thinking about it, and then move on to the next thing?
I would guess it had more to do with getting all these people, these like 10 movie stars in one room at any given time. But I don't know.
All right. Well, we will be back to talk about more comics next week. I will have another week of biting my tongue and not trying to spoil anything about Eternals. And then we'll continue to inch close to that movie. closer to that movie. Yeah, we'll see everyone next week.